How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Git and GitHub. So I'm going to go over what each of these things are, and we're going to be taking an extensive look at each of them. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we begin, I just want to go over a quick outline of what we'll be discussing in this video. So first, like I said, we're going to be taking a look at Git. So we will look at some of the Git commands and how to add it to your project. Second, we will be taking a look at GitHub. So we will look at how to host your code in a repository on GitHub, and we will look at all of the different things that GitHub gives to us. And third, we're going to be taking a look at I'll be doing a couple of demonstrations. So we will be adding Git to a project, we'll be making changes with Git, we will be pushing that to GitHub and exploring that project on GitHub, and we will be cloning a project from GitHub to your machine. So the first thing that we need to take a look at is what exactly is Git? Well, Git is a version control system. So essentially, all it does is track changes across all files in your project. So for example, if you have a project with one file and you write 2 lines in that file, that is being tracked by Git. If you add another file to that project, that is also being tracked, and also tracks deletions too. So if you have a file hello.py and you delete that, that is tracked as well. And a benefit of using Git is it gives us what's called non-linear workflow. So when you're developing, it's not in a linear pattern. So you can revert back on versions of your project. You can do what's called branching. So you can kind of go off and add files to your project and then merge that into your main or master branch. Some of the benefits of non-linear workflow is it allows you to work in a team quite well because you don't need to all be working on the same version. And lastly, Git is all local, so it's all on your local machine. Now, GitHub is a software development platform for Git, so it is where you can host all of your code for various projects. So for example, if you take a look at the image here, this is a repository named personal website, and as you can see down here is all of the code for my project, and we are in the code section. But you'll notice there are other various sections too. So we have issues, pull requests, actions, and a couple of other ones. And in this video, I'll be taking a look into each one of those in depth and really going over what they are and what they can do for us. So it's very important that you understand the distinction between Git and GitHub because they are not the same thing. Like I said, Git is the actual version control system. So Git is what tracks the changes, and GitHub, like I said, is software development platform for Git. So they are not the same thing. So the first thing that we need to do is download Git. So if you are on Mac or Linux, you can use the command sudo apt-get install git, and that will install Git on your machine. Now there's a good chance that it is already installed, but you can always run that to be sure. Now if you're in Windows, you're going to want to navigate to this website, https git-scm.com/download. And this will bring you to a page that has this on it where you can download it for Windows. And you'll notice that Mac and Linux are there as well. So if you are on one of those two devices and you would like to download it from the website, you can do that. And to check that it is indeed installed, you can run the command git-version in your terminal or command prompt, and you should get an output similar to that. Your number may be slightly different, but as long as you get something back in the form of git version and then the version number, you have downloaded it successfully. Okay, so now that we have Git installed, we can go ahead and create a GitHub account. So what you're going to do is navigate to github.com, and on the login page here, you can simply sign up for an account. So you can put your username, email, and password and hit sign up. Now I already have an account, so I'm simply going to just sign in. Okay, so once you have an account, we can go ahead and create a new Git project. So from the main page here, we can go up here to the Add button and hit New Repository. And what this will do is bring us to a page where we can create a new repository. And what a repository is, it simply contains all project files, including the history. So here we can choose a repository name. So I'm going to choose YouTube GitHub tutorial. You can name it whatever you want, but when you're naming it, keep in mind you want to name it according to convention, and that is all lowercase with dashes separating the words. So once you have your name, you can add an optional description. So here I'm going to put a tutorial for YouTube on Git and GitHub, just like that. And here you can choose if you want it to be public or private. So if you create the repository to be public, anyone on the internet can see it. So anyone can search it up and see all the code in it, but they cannot add code to it. If it's private, only you can see this repository. So if you're creating code or a project that you don't want others to see or know about, you're going to want to select private. But in most cases, public is fine. And then here, you can initialize this repository with a README file. We're not going to do that, but if you do select this, it will add a readme.markdown file. But we're going to skip that. And then down here, you can add a git ignore file, so you can choose to ignore various files in your project. We're going to skip that. And then here you can choose to add a license. So if you're writing software that you intend others to use, you can add a license to that. Again, we're going to skip both of those. So once you have all this filled out, you can click Create Repository. And this will bring us to this screen here. So this is a screen that you saw in the PowerPoint earlier. The only difference is there's no code here. But you will notice it gives us all of these commands to add a project. So we're going to do that. So back here, you can see these are the same commands. So before we use these, I want to go over what they are a little bit. So first we have the git init, and the init command simply initializes a new Git repository. So it initializes tracking for that project or everything in that folder. The git add command adds various files to that Git tracking. So for example, if you want to add a single file named readme.markdown, you would use the command git add readme.markdown. But more often than not, if you are adding an entire project or a bunch of files, you can simply use git add dot, and this will add all of the files and folders in your project to the tracking. Now after that, we have the commit command, and this is how you commit changes. So whenever you're finished working, all you do is write git commit /m, which is message, and then you can pass in a message that you want. So if it is the first commit, maybe you want to make a commit and the message says project started. And you don't need to do git init or git add every single time. Git will automatically track which files were added or removed. And then if it is the first time you are doing this, you need to add a GitHub repository. So you need to do the command git remote add origin and then the URL of this repo followed by .git. And that is simply, for us, https github.com, your username. It will be the repo name .git. And then after you do that, you can use git push to push it to the master branch. So this is what you do when you're first initializing a Git repository. So let's go ahead and actually do that. So I'm here in Visual Studio Code, and I have a folder called Hello World, and then I have a file called helloworld.py. So just a simple Python file, and all it's doing is printing Hello World. So what I want to do is add Git to this project. So if I do ls or list everything out, it will be dir on Windows. You can see this is where I am. I'm in where the folder or where the file is. So the first step is to run git init. So let's do that. And as you can see, initialized empty Git repository in, and then here's the path. Next step is to run the git add command. So we need to add the files we want. So in this case, I only have one file. So I could do git add hello underscore world.py. But I will just run git add dot because that is the same thing. And like I said earlier, if you have multiple files, this will add all of them. So we'll do that. Perfect. Next, we can do the message. So we can say git commit -m, and then here we'll write a message. So for my message, I'm going to say adding hello world.py. We'll hit enter, and as you can see here, it gives us some output. So it says adding hello world.py, one file changed, one insertion, and if we go up here, we can see that one file was indeed added. Next, we need to remote add our origin, which is this here. So for this step, I usually just copy the entire thing because it's kind of a hassle typing out all of that. We'll paste that in here, we'll hit enter, and then the final step is to push it up. So we'll use git push -u origin master. Git push -u origin master, and this is pushing it to the master branch. Now when we hit enter, there we go. So it commits everything, it bundles it up, compresses it, and then pushes it to the master branch. Now if we go back here and if we refresh, you'll see we now have code in here. We have hello world.py. If we open this, we see our code. So that's how you create a new Git project. So next, I want to take a look at some common Git commands. So the first command we have is git pull. So that command pulls any changes from this repository into our local project. So in here, why don't we go into our file, and I'm going to edit this. So I'm going to go down here and hit edit this file. And let me just add a couple of lines here. So I'm going to say name equals to Ben, and then we're going to hit, and then we are going to print out, instead of hello world, we're going to print out hello name, which should be hello Ben. Okay, so we changed the file, and then down here you can write the title for that commit and a description, which the description is optional. The title is required, but if I leave it blank and hit commit, you can see update hello world.py. That is the default. So that's fine. So I'm going to leave that and we'll commit. Now you can see the file is changed. But if we go back here, it's not changed here. So what we can do is we can use the git pull command to pull down the new changes. So if I say git pull, there we go. And as you can see, it updates in real time. So that's pretty cool. Now the second command is git push. So we already saw that in action when we did this command here, git push -u origin master. But let's do this again. So let's say, for example, we want to do a for loop. So let's just say for I in range 5, print this out. So print that out 5 times. Now we want to push our new changes up to our repository here. So let's do that. Remember, when we commit, we need to add a commit message. So we can say git commit -m, and then here we can say added for loop. And I just want to take a quick second to mention convention for commit messages. So normally you want to start with a capital letter, and then you can either end with a period or no period. So this is standard convention for commit messages. Okay, so we have that. We'll hit enter. Okay, and you'll notice I forgot to add this file. So we need to do git add, just like that. Now we can add the commit, and there we go. We have 1 file changed, 2 insertions, 1 deletion, and that is referring to the lines. So what it's doing is saying you added these 2 lines, and it thinks we deleted this line, but really we just replaced it. Okay, and once we have that, we can now run git push. And that will bundle everything up and push it to our repository. Now if we go back here and refresh, there we go. Our new changes are here. Next up, we have this command here. Kind of looks a little funny, but all this does is remove git from your project. So if you simply run this command, you will remove the tracking. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to remove it, but this could come in handy if you ever want to remove git. Okay, so the next common command that we're going to take a look at is git branch. So branching and pull requests go hand in hand. And basically all a branch is say for example, you have all your code for a project, right? And you want to make a fairly large change to that project, but you don't know if it's going to break anything, or you don't know how long it's going to take, and you need the original project to continue to be able to run. So what you can do is create a branch off of the main project. We call that the master branch, and you can name that branch maybe adding new feature, right? And you can do all your work in that branch. Then when you're done with that branch and you're done working, you can merge that back into the master branch with a pull request. So by doing that, the master branch is always working. And if you decide to scrap that branch or go a different direction, you can do so without having to revert the master branch back, which just can get confusing and mess stuff up. So you never really want to work in the master branch. So let's take a look at how we can create a branch, do some work in it, and then submit a pull request and merge it back into the master branch. So back in our project, if I run the command git, let me clear this out. If I run the command git branch, we see master. So right now we only have one branch, which is the master branch, and that's the branch we've been working in. And if we go into our repository, we can see we also only have a master branch here. So what I'm going to do is create a new branch. You do this by saying git checkout -b and then name the new branch. So let's name this new -feature. And as you can see, switch to new branch, new feature. So now we run git branch. We have both of the branches, master and new feature, and the one we are currently on is highlighted in green because I'm in VS Code. Now if you want to switch back to the master branch, you can simply say git checkout master. Now we switch to master, and we can do git checkout new feature to switch back to new feature. And to check, again, just run git branch. Oops. Just like that. So now, you'll notice that the code is still the same, but any edits we make here are now in the new feature branch. So what I'm going to erase all of this, and let's just print out new branch, just like that. Okay, so that's all of the code that I want to change here. So now let me run my git add. So add all of our new files and changes. Git commit. We'll give it a message of new branch finished. As you can see, one file changed. We added one line and deleted 4. And now let's say git push to push that up. Now, when we run this command, you'll see it was fatal. The current branch new feature has no upstream branch. To push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use git push and then this -- set upstream origin new feature. So we're going to copy that and do that. And just like that, we were able to push it up. Now, back in our repository, as you see, we are still in the master branch, right? But up here it says new feature has a recent pushes less than a minute ago, and we can compare and pull requests. So that's where the pull request aspect comes in. So let's click that. And here we are brought to this pull request page. So here we can open a new pull request. So as you can see up here, it is able to merge, and what we are doing is we are merging the branch new feature into the base branch master. So they autofilled our title, which is fine, and then we can leave a comment if we want. So let me just leave a comment, and we can say day of working, something like that. And then here we can create the pull request, and over here we can select create draft pull request. And all this does is will not allow the pull request to be merged until it is marked ready for review, so we don't need to worry about that. It's only us working on this. So we'll hit create pull request. And now it brings us to this page. So it checked the availability, or it checked the conflicts. There are no conflicts. So now we can hit merge. We'll confirm the merge. And just like that, it is merged. So after it is successfully merged and closed, we can now delete the branch. So I'm going to do that. And now if we come into our code, we can see we're in the master branch, and it has our new code that we merged in with our commit message, new branch finished. Okay, so that's it for the common commands. Next, I want to talk about cloning a project. So a lot of the time, you don't start a project from scratch, right? You might be starting a project that someone else already started, or if you're working for a company and they have their main project that they want you to work on and contribute to, you need to clone that repository to your local machine, where you can then start working on it and make changes to it. So to do that, we need to clone it. So, as you see up here, this is our YouTube GitHub tutorial repository still, and we can clone this. So if we go here, we can clone it with HTTPS. So we're going to copy this, and then all we're going to do is run the command git clone and then paste this. Okay, so I'm in my terminal right here. You can use CMD if you are on Windows. And I am in a folder. As you can see, here is the project that we just worked on, the Hello World project. So I'm going to so what you could do, you could create a new folder for your project, but when you clone a project, it will automatically do that. So I'm going to clone it right here. So I'm going to write git clone, and then I'm going to paste in what we just copied. Now when I hit enter, it will clone that repository. Now if I do ls, you'll see we have that repository name right there. So let's cd into there, and when we list everything out, there we go, we have our helloworld.py, and if I look into that file, this is what we have, print new branch, and that is the same as what we have here. Okay, so that is cloning a repository. So that's all we have for Git. Now I want to take a deep dive into GitHub and look at a bunch of these different things here. So you'll notice that inside our repository here, let's go to the main page, there's all these tabs up here. And so far we've only worked in the code tab, which is where all of the code lives, and we were in the pull request tab also. When we created the branch, pushed it up, and merged it into our master branch, as you recall, we created a pull request. So you can do that manually by going into this tab here and hitting new pull request, but for the most part, when you push up code, it will appear up here. So we took a look at these two already, but I want to look at all of these as well. So let's first look at issues. So as you can see, there aren't any open issues, and that's because we haven't added any yet. So a lot of the times, if you're working on a project, issues are going to arise. So if you're working by yourself or individually on a project, you might not need to do this because you know of all the issues. But if you're working on a large open source project, some of the projects on GitHub you'll see have hundreds of issues. So to do this, all you're going to do is hit new issue. And then inside of here, you can describe the problem. So let's say, for example, the code doesn't run. So let's just add the title, code doesn't run. And then in here, for the description, we can say error on line 76. Now this is all made up. Obviously our code doesn't have 76 lines and it runs, but this is what it might look like. Now if you're working on the project with other people, you can go here and assign this to various people. But this is just me, so I'll leave it blank and it will assign it to myself. You can also add labels to it. So for example, if it's a bug, you can add the bug label. Maybe it's an error with, or you need to add documentation, or there's an error with the documentation. Well, you can add that label. So you can see there's a bunch of different labels here. I'm just going to add bug, just like that. We're going to skip projects. We'll take a look at that in a second. Milestones, we're going to skip that, but you can add any milestones here, and if there are any pull requests that you want to link for where this issue is, you can add that, but we don't have any pull requests, so we can't do that. But after you have all that, we can hit submit new issue. And what this will do is it will open the issue. And now people can view this, they can comment on it, and they can try to fix it. And if you are the owner or an admin in this repository, you can close the issue. So say we fixed it, so maybe I will comment fixed issue. We'll comment just like that. And after this, we can hit close to close the issue. Just like that. And then when we go back here, you can see there are no open issues, but we can go to the closed, and they will be listed here. So if you're working on a large open source project, you may see a bunch of different issues in here, and you can go to them, see what they are, and to fix them, you can clone the repository, create a new branch, push your changes up, and if they're good, they'll be merged into the master branch, and then they will be closed. Okay, so that's issues. We'll skip pull requests because we already looked at that. Next, we have GitHub Actions. So actions are a way to kind of automate some tasks of your project. So for example, here's some suggested workflows because we're working in Python. Maybe this was a Django project and we want to set up a workflow. So whenever you push to this repository, it will run these commands. So it will upgrade pip. Next, it will install all of the files or all the packages in requirements.txt, and then it will run any tests that we have. And all of these workflows do are help to automate various things that you might want to do every time. So you can also see here, deploy your code with these popular services. So we can set up a workflow to deploy to any of these services every time we push. Next up, we have projects. So projects are a great way to organize your issues, but also all of the things you need to do. So as you can see, these are some of the things you can do. You can sort various tasks, you can plan various projects, you can automate your workflow, track your progress, share the status, and you can wrap up the project when it's complete. So if I go up here and hit create a project, this is creating a project for the code in here, so for my YouTube GitHub tutorial repository. Let's name this main project. We're going to skip the description, and then here you can select a project template. So here, these all do different things. So the one I'm going to choose is this one right here, and I'm going to create a project. And you can see what we get is 3 columns right here, right? We have a to-do, we have in progress, and we have done. So let me delete these notes that they give us to start off with. So say we wanted to add a to-do. Maybe just going to make stuff up here, add authentication. We can add that. Maybe another to-do is improve UI on homepage. We'll add that. So you have all of these to-dos in here, and then say I'm working one day and I see this, and I say, all right, let me implement that. Well, we move that to in progress. So now other people that are working on this project know that someone's already working on this. And then when I finish it, we can move it to the done. So as you can see, it's just a way to kind of track what you are working on and who's working on what. And you can create different projects for the same repository. So right now I just have a main project, but if you had different parts, maybe you want to create a new project for front end versus back end if you're doing web stuff or anything like that. So next up is Wiki. So here you can simply create a wiki page for your repository. So if I go here and create the first page, here we go, we have some basic template stuff. If I save this, here we go. We have home, I edited this page, and then it just says, welcome to the YouTube GitHub tutorial wiki. So you can add different things here, add pages, all of this stuff. And this just helps people understand what's happening with the project. Next we have security. So in here, you can set up various security things. So you can set up a policy here. Not going to go through that, but that's an option. You can look at the security advisors, which we don't have any at the moment. Dependabot is good. If you enable this, this will give you a notification when any of your dependencies have a vulnerability. So if any of them are depreciated or if you need to upgrade them, this will alert you of that, and most of the time it will be able to do it for you. So to enable that, we'll just hit there. Now it is enabled. And as you see, that brought us to the settings page. So a lot of this stuff you can configure in these settings as well. So as you see, we enabled the Dependabot alerts. Let's also enable the security updates. Perfect. Now, since we're in settings, let's just stay in here. We can manage various access to this repository. So right now, our repository is public, so it is visible to everyone and anyone. But even though it is public, not everybody can collaborate and add files to this project. So to do that, you need to invite a collaborator. And here you can search by username, full name, or email, and add them. And once you do that, they will be able to add to the project without submitting a pull request. We also have some settings for the branches, so you can change the default branch, and you can add protection rules. So like I said earlier, a lot of the time you don't want to push directly to the master branch. So to really enforce that, you can add a rule that says you cannot push to the master branch. And you can also add a bunch of other rules. So if you want to require a certain number of reviews before you merge branch, you can do that here, and so on. So I'm not going to go over the rest of the settings, but you can kind of go through these and see everything that GitHub gives you here. So the last tab is Insights. So in here you can see an overview of your repository. So as you see, we are looking at a 1 week period, and it gives us the number of merged pull requests, the number of proposed pull requests, the number of closed issues, and the number of issues that are new. And then down here we have this bar chart where you can see who is committing, and then it gives you a little history down here. We can see who has contributed to this project, so it's just me at the moment. Here it gives you the community profile, so these are some things that they recommend doing. So right now we have a description, but we do not have a README, a code of conduct, or any of these things. You can add them here if you'd like. And then it gives a couple of other things. So you can see who is cloning your repository and who is visiting your repository. Okay, so that's kind of a deep dive into GitHub and everything GitHub offers us. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely be sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a like and a share. And just to recap what we went over today, we looked at Git, we went over what it was and how you can add it to your project. We looked at GitHub, so we looked at all of the different things GitHub offers, such as issues, pull requests, projects, all of that good stuff. And we showed how you can integrate the two, Git and GitHub. And then lastly, we looked at the Git command line interface, so how you can use commands such as git add, git push, and all of that stuff. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.